Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of Reddit's Dark Stories. These Reddit survival stories are captivating and horrifying. Today I covered two boys drifted halfway to Cuba in a dead boat. Bahia Honda State Park in the Florida Keys. My stepbrother and I are 15 years old, and our parents are being boring, wandering around the park looking at trees and whatnot. We decided to steal the keys to our 16-foot skiff that was beached and go for a joyride. We pushed the boat off the shoreline into shallow water. We kept bumping on the bars under us because there was a big slack tide at the time. So we decided just to wait before dropping the prop so we wouldn't ruin it. We let ourselves drift out a ways from shore. Now we were maybe 200 yards from shore and I can't see the bottom anymore. So we decided to drop the outboard into the water. Only the thing won't budge. We are pushing and pushing on it, but it just won't go into the water no matter what we do. We are still drifting because there was a very big slack tide that was just pulling our boat further and further from shore. At the time, we decided we had better drop the anchor so we don't drift anymore. The anchor line was no more than 10 feet long, and when we dropped it, it didn't slow down. At that point, we surmised the water was already too deep for it to hit anything. We pushed off from the beach at about 1:30 p.m. and it was now around 6 p.m. The shore was more or less just a line on the horizon, and the trees were barely discernible. This was a while ago. I'm an old man, so we didn't have cell phones handy like most kids do these days. As part of the rental agreement, the boat was not supposed to be out past sunset, so it didn't have any running lights or a radio. Our parents, we later found out, knew of our distress pretty quickly and were watching the boat from shore, trying to figure out what we were doing. Once night hit, everyone knew we were in trouble. As the sun was almost set, we saw a light blinking in the breaks between the waves. It was pretty far away. It was coming more or less towards us. It ended up being a really teeny little, for lack of a better term, make it yourself, sailboat, crewed by a father and his kid. It was smaller than even our boat, which was teeny and really not made for the ocean. The guy stopped when he saw us frantically yelling at him and threw us a line. We told him our trouble and he jumped on our boat. After making some tinkering, was able to get our prop to drop into the water. We were saved. He had his boat tied to the back of our boat, so we didn't want to start the prop till he got his away, but it was in the water. After he was about 10 feet away, we turned the key and it was dead. We shouted at him once we realized we couldn't fix it ourselves, but he had put his own outboard motor in the water and he took his sails down. He was headed back home and didn't hear us. We shouted and waved to the boy in his boat, who was maybe 6 or 7. He was watching us while Dad had his back to us and waved back at us. They got further and further away until they were gone. We tried what we could, but the key would just not power the boat at all. Later we find out the battery on the boat was dead. Wouldn't have been able to power a radio anyway. I forgot to mention, this was New Year's Eve. We knew it was midnight because of the fireworks show we saw light up the horizon. We saw other lights on the horizon too. Police boat, red and blue lights flashing, except they were on the Caribbean side of the island. The wrong side, we were drifting south, and they were looking for a teeny boat with no lights drifting north. Later, we found out the park ranger at Bahia Honda had told them bad information as to how to find us when our parents tracked him down and pleaded for help. We ended up being found by a Coast Guard rescue boat around 7 a.m. and we're back at the station in time to eat all of the station guys' breakfast cereal. We had drifted nearly 40 miles during the night, about halfway to Cuba. Several times throughout the night, huge cargo ships would pass relatively close to us. Since we were in the international shipping lane, we wouldn't have even registered as a bump to them and wouldn't have been seen without any lights. One really heartbreaking thing was seeing all the boats whiz by us all day and night, waving at them, but none other than that one sailboat guy, his son, stopped, saw us, or even got close enough to us to realistically see us. We probably just looked like we were fishing or something. We would shout at everyone just because we had nothing else to try. So between that, my whistleblowing, and no fresh water, neither of us had any voice at all by the time they found us. The worst part of the entire evening for both of us was knowing that Darren, my shipmate, Dad, swam after us. At around hour 4 or so, he decided he could swim out to us and help. He was an excellent swimmer, and back then was in pretty great shape. He estimated at the time he dove in to get us, we were about a mile away. He swam as fast as he could out to us and made it fairly close. But the surf was pretty high that day. He made it close enough to us that we heard him shouting out at us and gave us such a feeling of relief we were going to be fine when he got to us, even though his head was still relatively a speck in the waves. He never made it to the boat though, and then we stopped hearing him shouting our names. This was Darren's dad, and it brought upon a serious feeling of guilt. Where was he? We were both crying because we thought he was dead, and it was our fault because he tried to swim out after us. We both, at different times, jumped in and swam around looking for him out of desperation more than sense. Neither of us swam very far from the boat because of the dark. That boat is all you really have between you and the now very cold water. We didn't have any towels or anything on the boat besides our clothes, and poor Darren didn't even bring a shirt with him, so we used my shirt the best we could for warmth. Throughout the night, we would cry and talk about death and what each other would do. There was no radio on the boat, but there was a red whistle that was on the keychain. I blew the mother effing thing all night long and channeled my 7th grade shop class teacher, Wally Luke, who taught me Morse code. I blew SOS for hours and hours. When the Coast Guard guy finally found us, the first thing he yelled was that he was going to bust whoever has been making all that dang racket with the whistle all night. Posted from nah_dude_nah.